to the Beat Ninjas podcast, where you get an all-access pass to see what happens behind the closed doors of a fast-growing global bookkeeping and financial reporting business.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Beat Ninjas podcast. And on today's show, we have Chris Silvestri joining us. Welcome, Chris.
Hi, Meryl. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you on the show. We were chatting before we started recording about the fact that we feel like we kind of know each other, but we haven't actually met in person yet. So, Chris, do you want to talk a little bit about your background and actually the connection that we have as well?
Yeah, so my background is as I was a software engineer for the past 10 years in a full-time job in Italy. And last year, I decided that I completely want to change everything, my background, my life. So I basically moved to the UK from Italy and left my full-time job. And now I'm a copywriter and conversion optimizer for websites. So I help people make more money with websites. And me and you, actually, this is the first time that we chat, which is pretty unique, but I guess it's the online environment. And basically, you offered with Beat Ninjas, you offered free tickets to a conference. It's called the DC Austin in last April. And I was a member of this newsletter. I saw this form where people who filled it out had the chance to win one of the tickets. I guess it was 2 tickets. And so I decided to fill it out and see what happened. And I won one of the tickets. And they invited me to the conference, so you actually weren't there, so we didn't meet, but we had an exchange of emails, and I met a few people who know you, who are in your mastermind together, and yeah, so I've been continuously hearing about you, and yeah, it's been great fun and the start of a great adventure.
And so where were you at in your transition from being a full-time employee to working in conversion optimization when you went to the conference in Austin?
Yeah, so when I went to the conference, I had started my business for just 3 months. I opened like everything in the UK and was pretty fresh. So, and I actually had a few clients already because I've been doing it on the side for almost 2 years. So it's always been a lot of evenings and weekends working because I wanted to make it work, So I put everything that I had in it, and I had 2 or 3 clients, mostly on Upwork. So, and was one of the main things that I wanted to change. I wanted to get off of Upwork and start working with better and higher paying clients, also more serious clients, because some of the Upwork clients are not really really good ones. so yeah, I had 2 or 3 clients, but I wanted to get more of it and yeah, make it more like a serious established business. It was just a side thing still when I went to the conference.
And I think it's really interesting hearing different people's transition stories from when they had a full-time job and then what that transition looked like into starting their business. So before we get into more of the details of that story, I want to dig into what was it that made you decide to take that leap of faith. So you were working in software development, you'd been in a role or working as a software developer for 10 years. And what was it that was the trigger for you or the catalyst to make a change?
Yeah, so it was actually an outsider perspective that helped me. I was talking with a few people online from different courses that I joined. And this was my friend, actually a Canadian guy that I actually never met. And seeing my situation from the outside, he knew that I had saved enough money to almost live for 1 year without working. And he just said one day, he said, man, you should just pick a date. And if you're sick of this, just decide to leave and make the transition. And that's what I did. I was talking with him and I decided you know what? Let's pick a date, and I'm gonna give my notice that the same day. So that's how it happened. It actually took an outsider perspective and a lot of years of just doing the same thing over and over again before deciding.
And you mentioned that you had saved up almost a year's worth of living costs.
Yeah.
And had you done that intentionally, or were you just good at managing your personal finances and that had happened? How did you get to that place where you had that amount of savings?
Yeah, I guess it's a mix of both. I'm actually pretty good at saving. I don't really enjoy wasting money on status and clothes and stuff that to me it's kind of useless. I mostly spent money on courses to learn in the past 2-3 years, and on my band. I also played in a band, and a lot of money went into that. I probably had double the money if I didn't spend it with the band. But I guess in Italy, but mainly all over the world now. If you have a band, it's like that. You just have to spend money. So yeah, it's a mix of both. You need to be rigid and you have to have a goal actually, because if you don't have that vision and that motivation to save, it kind of gets harder.
When I'm talking about some of the tips that I have in making that transition from being a full-time employee to having your own business or being a freelancer, that's actually one of the first tips I have, is cutting back expenses when you are an employee so you can build up that savings buffer, which actually gives you the freedom to build a business. And it also gives you options around things like choosing not to take difficult clients or not to work with difficult clients if you're starting out with a service business. And it gives you some runway if you're trying to build products or create software. So it sounds like you definitely did that part right. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, even if I was working on Upwork, as I mentioned, I was able to not start at bottom low prices and just keep my rate that a bit higher than the starting freelancers. So I was comfortable, and I could take just the jobs that I felt good at the moment.
And so when you first got started on Upwork, you mentioned that you do conversion optimization, but that you trained as was it a software engineer or software developer? And they may be quite similar. I think you said, did you say?
Yeah, it was software engineer, but in a totally different field that most people think. So when you hear software engineer, you think about developer websites and stuff, but it was actually industrial automation. So I was programming these huge robot machines that assemble plastic components for the biomedical industry. And so it was like a really radical transition into the online market.
Because I was interested when you were deciding what skill to sell on Upwork. So when you were building your freelancing profile. And so that was a question that I had was, why did you choose conversion optimization? But now that you've talked about, that's quite a unique skill set, and maybe people on Upwork aren't looking for someone to do that kind of work.
Yeah, I actually, before deciding on copywriting and conversion optimization, I had tried a few things, as I guess most people approaching the online environment do. I tried writing blogs, like SEO blogs, and also I had a few VAs writing for me, but that actually didn't pan out. So I also tried an Amazon FBA business along with my brother. We sold a product made in China to the US, but that didn't pan out because we realized that the upfront investment was too high, and we had full-time jobs and the time was not enough. So the thing that made me choose copywriting was actually that looking at a few courses and material online, I saw that copywriting was a really good skill to have depending on what you did. Like for every kind of freelancer online, copywriting was a good skill to have, and it was actually paid pretty well, and you didn't have to write 1,000 or 2,000 words blog posts for that. So I started studying on the side. Every weekend I followed courses, blogs, and I started really getting passionate about the psychology behind it and understanding people, their emotions and motivations. So I picked copywriting to start, and that diverged into conversion optimization too, which is a mix of copywriting, user experience, design. Yeah, so that was my transition.
And how did you get your very first copywriting job?
I had no portfolio on Upwork, so I just applied to a few jobs. I found this American company who needed copy for their websites. So since I had no portfolio, I decided to just write a few lines of their homepage and send them. So they actually liked what I did, and they decided to start the project, and that's how it began.
And then it built from there. So the next time that you were looking for another job, then you had something in your portfolio because you'd done a job for that previous business. And did it build from there?
Yeah, exactly. I started collecting bits and pieces of my portfolio and making it better and better, and asking for testimonials. Even though I had just 2 testimonials, I had put them on my website. And yeah, so I guess every bit counts. And then I also thought about my background in technology. So if I wanted to get better clients, I could mix that with working for software companies. So I decided to niche down and specialize in copywriting for software companies.
And when you were building this skill set, so it sounds like you've built this skill from scratch. So when you were saying, so you did courses, so there were some online courses, and how else did you practice and educate yourself and improve your skills? It seems like quite a challenge to learn a whole new skill.
Yeah, especially because I'm Italian, but I never actually I never actually written for an Italian client. I only write in English, and all my clients basically are from the US, UK, Australia, all around Europe. So yeah, it's just I don't know, being passionate about it, being almost obsessed, and spending weekends practicing and taking notes and just trying. I mean, I was kind of scared, and there's that fear of the imposter syndrome when you start out and you don't actually know much. But I decided to just give it a shot because I had nothing to lose, and I wanted to make my situation better. So I just went with it and tried and tried.
And so what did your life look like for those first 3 or 4 months where you'd left your full-time role, you were on Upwork, and you were building a business? What did your day-to-day life look like? Where were you living, and what kind of things were you doing? How much were you working? Were you doing other things outside of work? What did that transition period look like?
Yeah, so the transition was kind of busy because I also moved to the UK, so I had to prepare everything, get the basic financial and bureaucratic things going in the UK. So I almost spent the first 2 months just looking for some clients, like probably 2-3 hours a day, and the rest of the day it was just bureaucratic things and making sure that I had a stable position to just start head down and work. But yeah, the first 2-3 months I actually was working a bit for 2 clients that I already had, and the rest was not much work actually. It was kind of a vacation / boring bureaucratic situation.
Yeah. And so what does your business look like now?
Right now, actually, after DC Austin, the conference that you sponsored, it kind of shift gears again. And I had like another boost actually, because at the conference I met Queen Zeta, which is actually manager of this agency called Zeta Labs, who helps a website make more money, actually. So with design and conversion optimization, copywriting. And I met her at this meetup that they had at DC Austin, and I showed them, they were critiquing websites and tearing down websites. And I joined the meetup because I wanted to maximize everything at the conference. You know, I was an Italian guy, moved to the UK with no contacts, no network. So I saw the opportunity to establish new relationships. So, and even though I didn't have like an e-commerce business or anything, a website that I could show them, I had my portfolio website. I decided to show them a project that I was working on for a client, and they looked at it and they saw like I was pretty good at optimizing, copywriting. So we started talking from there, and that's how I ended up working with them. So now it's almost, I would say 90% I work with the team at Zeta Labs, and the rest is my clients. So yeah, so now I've been learning a lot of stuff with them, and it's been great. So yeah, I'm really thankful for what I got into after this Austin and how it turned out things.
And it actually sounds like a great idea if you're trying to build a particular skill set and become really advanced in a particular area, to go and work with the best and almost be mentored by someone like that. And so it sounds like when you were first building your copywriting skills, you did a lot of courses and practice, and then finding yourself a mentor to go and work with and get feedback and critique and learn actually sounds like a brilliant way to do that. And I know with my background in accounting, that's how you learn accounting, is to do some training, but then a lot of it is about working in a firm and getting regular feedback from someone that's further along in their career than you. And then all of those, in accounting it's called review points, but they're all really learning points. So every time you get that feedback, you learn, you don't make that mistake again. And that's how you really quickly improve. And is that a bit like the situation at Zeta Labs? Do you feel like you've learned a lot in that role?
Yeah. Like they introduced me slowly, like gradually at first, and doing a few wireframes audits. But the thing is that with every new project that comes, they were really open and taught me a lot of stuff, also sharing their process, their procedures. And so I think you have to be also proactive and not only get what they teach you, but you also have to ask a lot of questions and also put some extra effort into complementing everything that you get. So another thing that I still do is, as soon as I find a new skill that I have to learn, I actually just take 1 or 2 weeks, and additional to the project I'm working on, I take I don't know, probably 1 hour, 2 each day, and just go through another course or a book and just inject that knowledge into my veins, almost like in the Matrix. And so I think it's a constant upgrade that you have to do if you want to stay and keep the pace.
And so what would be an example of a skill like that? And how do you decide what that skill is that you're going to learn for that period of a couple of weeks?
Mm-hmm. Actually, lately I've been following the Queen's advice, because I trust her mentorship and her experience. And but I also see the projects we work on and the needs of those projects and what we have to cover. So if I see that there's a gap and maybe there's nobody doing it, or we could do it better, I just look for information on that and start learning it. For example, I've been learning a lot of analytics, analyzing data lately, and creating reports on that to improve websites. So that's been kind of my focus now. But yeah, it's mostly filling gaps and understanding what we could do better and improve, always improve.
I think you've made a really important point there about the way that you continue to educate yourself. And that is, I think it's important to do that to stay relevant because things are moving so quickly, especially in the online space. And so
Yeah,
if you're not continuously learning and reinventing yourself, then you might not be left behind in 6 months. But in a couple of years, if you haven't continued to learn, then you'll definitely be left behind where the leaders of the market are at.
yeah, yeah.
And so what's
Totally
next
agree.
for you? So what's next on the horizon in terms of skills that you want to learn? But where do you see yourself in a couple of years' time? What are you working towards?
So lately, I've been contemplating if I just want to do copywriting or conversion optimization or both. I think I'm gonna focus more on conversion optimization in general because I like copywriting and what's behind it, but I found out that I'm not really passionate about the act of writing itself. I'm probably more passionate about helping people convey their message. But you can do that with design, with user experience, and a lot of different things. And I think my main skill set is that of seeing the bigger picture, putting together all the data, and provide suggestions, recommendations, and yeah, putting it all together basically. So I will probably uh, decide in the next few months and see if I have to change the whole my old business or. But since I've been working a lot with Zeta Labs so far, I think it's going to be a natural transition, and I'm going to work with them and be part of the team. So yeah, my own clients, I have a few clients still, and I still want to keep working with a few of them, but it's going to be mostly working with the team, I think.
And some of our listeners will be pretty clear on the difference between copywriting and conversion optimization, but some may not.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were describing in a bit more detail how you actually approach conversion optimization. So if a client came to you at Data Labs and they said, okay, I need some help. Can you improve my conversions? How would you actually approach that? So what would you do and what work or what would the outcomes look like?
Yeah, so copywriting is actually mainly working on the messaging of the website. So doing the research and actually writing the text that you see on the website. While conversion optimization is a mix of user experience, so how users interact with the website and how they engage with it, and understanding how to make it better so you have more conversion, more sales. And it's also a mix of design concepts and copywriting too. So that's why I like it. It's a mix of everything. And it's also a mix of data. And actually, data is where everything starts. You have some qualitative data and quantitative data. So you look at websites analytics, their traffic data, their how they interact with the pages, where do they enter a certain page, where do they exit, and yeah, you basically analyze the whole funnel from where customers start engaging with the company to the last point where they buy actually, and how you can keep them engaged and keep them into your business basically. So the first thing, yeah, go ahead.
You keep going.
Okay, so and the first thing that I do usually, we do a lot of research. We do user testing, which is a great thing to understand, have an outsider perspective on how users use your website. So you have these people on people basically going through your website and recording screencast videos of them using your website and going through a few tasks that you give them. And after you can watch their videos and see how they interact with the page, what they think, because they actually tell you what they think while they record. And that's pretty useful because you get a lot of insights on how to improve certain elements, where to move buttons, or how to improve copy. And then you have other kinds of research, like we interview customers and ask them about their pain points, their objections, their motivations. So the first thing for conversion optimization is actually a lot of research. We actually do 4 months of research before actually implementing in a project. And from there, you just implement everything. After that is deciding on your observations and acting on them. So designing, prepare the new copy, and I create wireframes, which are basic mock-ups of a website of how it could be better. So that's my main occupation now. And yeah, we provide wireframes to clients, so they could just give them to a designer too. And if we don't implement, so they have the guidance and the recommendations to move forward and improve.
Yeah, wonderful. And back to the topic of that transition from being an employee to starting a business or being a freelancer. So how is that part of your life looking now in terms of having more of that freedom? Are you traveling a little bit? Do you schedule your days differently? And how are you finding that?
Yeah, the biggest realization that I got when I went full-time freelancing was actually when I got the chance of booking my flight to DC Austin, the conference that you sponsored, because if I still would have been in my old full-time job, there was no way that I could just book the flight when I realized that I won the ticket and just go. So this was like the biggest realization that I had, that I could just embrace every opportunity that I got and just go with it. That was great. And this year too, I tried to maximize my time to explore a lot. I've been to Thailand for a month in October, also because we had another conference there. But yeah, every chance that I get, I just book a flight and take at least 1 week or 10 days to just explore. It's been pretty fun.
Yeah, sounds like you're making the most of it. Do you have any other tips for someone else that is wanting to transition from being a full-time employee into freelancing? Anything else that you learned along the way, or anything that you might do differently next time?
Yeah, I think even if you don't spend a lot of money on courses, and especially if you don't have a community of like-minded people near you. I mean, I was living in a small town of like 20,000 people in Italy, and I had to do 30-40 minutes drive to go anywhere. And I had nobody like interested in online business there. I just started. You can learn so much just reading a lot of books. Basically, what I learned the most from were at the beginning mindset books. I had to change a lot of my internal thinking and mindsets that I got from my upbringing, probably. And I think you can start learning a lot and just spot opportunities better when they come, so you can take advantage of those.
Great answer. Well, Chris, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been great watching along with your journey from afar, and also wonderful to actually connect with you and have a chat in person. It is funny that the first time we're chatting is actually on the podcast. Yeah. So thanks again for coming on the show.